have a student taking a test and another student taking a test. And I didn't get 11 perfect scores on 2 quizzes. So let's talk about this. All right. So the linear one first. So the first one, I know it's, you know what it was students didn't notice it went 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So this one went up 12 and over 3. So it went up 12 and right 3. That's 12 over 3. That's 4. A lot of you put in 12 as your y-intercept, and that was good. Some people even put in like y minus the y value equals 4 times x minus, like they did that too, and that's fine. It didn't matter to me what form you used. But it is up 12 and over 3. Or you could have done a smaller version, but then it would have been up 4 over 1, which is still 4. And now, you know, you had to, like, notice this was 4 and 1. Anyway, it's the same ratio. Number 1. Number 2, find an equation of the line that satisfies the given conditions. So it's through and has a slope. It's ready to go with slope-intercept form. No, it's not. Slope, point-slope form. Y minus the y value. And I had some people put the x value here. Y goes with y. X goes with x. It's opposite math. Same with the circle one that we're going to do in just a minute. Slope goes here. Some of you really like this form and you wrote it in this form. That's fine too. I think it ended up being like negative 23 or something. I don't remember. But the other form was okay as well. This one, number 3, said parallel to. Parallel means the same slope. So first we had to find the slope for our first line. And I rewrote mine. I took a couple steps. I found the slope. I made a note to myself. Slope is negative 1/4. And then I put the slope and the point they asked me about into the y minus y, slope, x minus x. Thomas, question?
I do actually have a question.
Yes, sir?
When you go to the right one, up 2, wouldn't that not be 2 over 1 if you went the other way?
So.
Oh, I was counting by ones.
Yes. That's what I was saying, that it was in 2s. You had to notice that this is 4. Okay. This one's the same problem, but different information is given. We still have a point, so we still have the 3 and the 8, but we had to figure out slope. So we had to find slope, which is change in y over change in x between 1, 3, and negative 1, 1. That's not a 1. There. So change in y tells us to subtract the y's. 3 minus 1, 3 minus 1, and then 1 minus negative 1, 1 minus negative 1. That's 2 over 2, which is 1. But they asked us for perpendicular slope. So what do you do to find perpendicular slope? You got to flip it over and then make it negative. So this is my note to myself that it had to be flipped over. So I was looking for you to put the point in the equation and this value. Find the x-intercepts. Some of you still don't know what that means. And there is a point where I cannot help you. You have to know what the terms mean in the course that you're in. And this means the intercepts, it means they're somewhere on the x-axis. And all of these points have something in common. They have 0 for the y value. So if you plug in 0 for the y value, you get 3x equals 24, x equals 8. And so I filled that in. And then the y-intercepts are, so this is the x-axis. On the y-axis, they have 0 for x. They have 0 for x. And even if you had just found me points and didn't tell me which one was which, but you plugged in 0, I'd have given you credit. Because x-intercepts have zeros in them. These were the 2 points. If you just told me a random number like 4, that's A, that's not one of the answers. But B, it needs to have an x value and a y value to be an intercept. It has to be a point. Number 5. Okay, questions on the first page that I went too fast through that you'd like for me to start on scrap paper and do pretty. Live math. Right. Number 1. So number 1, we were given a picture and we were given these 2 points basically. This point is 0, 12, and this point is negative 3, 0. And they gave us a lot of points along the way, so it depended on how you work the problem. But in order to write the equation of a line, you need to have a point and the slope. So Sam, what point would you like to use? Or a different point that's on the line, that's anywhere on there. It doesn't matter. You can just pick one. On my picture or on the graph itself. Like you could say negative 2, 4. That would be fine too. Any point. Okay, so we're going to use negative 2, 4. That's this point. And we need the slope. In order to find slope, we're looking for what happens, how far you go up and how far you go over. So how far do we go up from 0 to 12? 0 to 12. 12. So slope also means change in y over change in x. You can like subtract them. 12 minus 0 is 12. And then going the other way, we've got from negative 3 to 0. Like we're going this way. And that's 1, 2, 3. And on your graph, you could have counted it. It showed it pretty well. This is 3. Otherwise known as 0 minus negative 3. 0 minus negative 3, which is still 3. So the slope is 4, and my equation is either y equals mx plus b, which is not what you're using with negative 2, 4. So we have to go y minus the y value equals slope, which is 4, x minus the x value. Y minus 4 equals 4x plus 2. So to draw the equation of a line, you need a point and a slope. And then you need to know the equations for lines. Other questions from page 1?
No.
Page 1. Other questions? Page 2? Page 2. So y'all were able to plot the points. I know this one fell off, sorry, but y'all plotted it anyway. It's okay. It's just right there. And then you had to use the distance formula, which you could have either remembered it or you could totally count, right? You had the point here and here. I feel like y'all did pretty well here. This is really 2, 18. I can't add. So if you count down 7 and over 13, like you can plug them into the distance formula, or you could have plugged them into a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Because we're looking for this distance. This is c squared. So that's going to be 7 squared plus 13 squared equals c squared. I know, you may not know 13 squared off the top of your head. Not hard to multiply out. You are in precalculus. You can multiply 13 and 13. Add them together better than I did, which is 218. And then you're supposed to take the square root because we needed c, not c squared. Find the coordinates of the midpoint. That was something we were supposed to memorize. The midpoint is add them together and divide by 2. But you've got a picture right here. So you could sort of guesstimate what it is and then check your answer. And so when I got 1/2, -5/2, it looked like it was in the right spot. So there's an equation for this. You add them up and subtract them. Slope is a formula you're also supposed to memorize. Like, these are all things from prior classes that we talked about and practiced with our homework, and then you have to come to class and still know. So these are formulas to remember, all 3 of these. And then number 7, y'all did pretty well on 7. You got maybe a little flustered on B, but we did an example like this in class. The simplified version of A, when you multiply it out, you've got this x squared and a 2xy, which makes it not linear. Linear means it looks like this. It just has x to the first power. But the second one, if you do the simplification, you end up with just x to the first power. So this one is a linear function for number 7. I don't know what this one looks like. Like, this one's hard to graph. So it's nice to know that's not linear. I wouldn't ask you to graph it. That was the point of that. So from this, here are the things that you would want to remember, right? You'd want to know that forms of a line are y equals mx plus b, or y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Those are the 2 easy to plug in ones. That slope means subtract the y's and subtract the x's. Distance, we did a couple ways. We said that c squared equals a squared plus b squared. And then we took the square root of that and said the square root of x minus x squared plus y minus y squared, where you plug in the values. So these 2 go together. Midpoint is add the x's. That's what's different there. And then add the y's, because you're finding the average between them. So midpoint is like you do grades, right? If you're looking for your grade, you take the high grade and the low grade, you add them together and divide by 2. That's the same thing here. You add the 2 points together, divide by 2, and that's the average. That's the number in the middle. Okay. And so we had, those are all the equations that we did, and linear means it has x to the first power. So these were all the equations for this first section. Like coming from all directions. All right, so circles. Circles. This is how the points sort of laid out with my random ones on here, so I can keep track. Standard form of a circle is supposed to look like number 5. Okay, where you have something squared, and then y squared, and then the radius squared. So we're looking at number 1. I went ahead and put the hard one first. So in number 1, we only had x squared plus 6x. I guess we went a couple of periods without it. Y'all might be getting it. Nobody's sung in here yet. I think they're scared. Might be because I just chased people away. All right, so tell me about this is not ready to complete the square yet. What's it missing?
The third thing, the number.
The third thing. So, Danny, what's the third thing?
The number.
Which is?
That you get 9.
9. So this needed a 9. Now it can be factored. But we can't just give that side 9. You have to give the other side 9. Yeah. All right. So then now this factors into x plus 3 squared. So some of you forgot that you have to do b divided by 2 to get this number. And then you square it to put it back. So what are we doing for y? What's going in the parentheses? Y what?
Y minus 1.
Yeah. The rest of us?
Squared.
Y minus 1?
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Y minus 1 squared. What goes up here? 1. On both sides. Because negative 6 doesn't make sense as a radius. We had to add to the other side. So then we get 10 minus 6 is 4.